Good morning. My name is Leon and welcome back to the print shop here at Historic Arkansas Museum. Today I got two things we're going to do. We're going to have a little fun with hats. Now, when you're running a printing press in the 1800s, one of the things you have to mess with is ink, right? And today we have our wonderful pens that you can write with the ink and it's nice and it dries very quickly, or you can just tap it out on a phone or a computer. Back then, the ink they had in the 1800s did not dry very fast. The folks running the press had to hang the papers up to dry. Now they're hanging above your head. Think about this. Drip, 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 drip. Ink dripping down and getting on your hair. Now I know I have a little gray hair, right? But I do not want my hair dyed by printer's ink. So, in order to help with that issue, they began to make what we call a pressman's hat, which are just a square hat, something like this, and it's used to keep the ink off your hair. Now this one, of course, is not big enough for me. The paper I'm using is not big enough to make a hat for me. I can if I really work at it, but it's much easier to make them smaller. And you can use any kind of paper you'd like. I'm using old school newspaper, not as old school as the 1800s, but I'm using newspaper. Make sure it's a thinnish paper. I don't want it to be too thick because if it's too thick, it's hard to manipulate. So you have to be kind of careful with that. So the first hat I'm going to make is an easy one. Well, I say it's an easy one, but it may be kind of difficult. I don't know if I'm going to get this right. So there's a little suspense here. Is he going to make this hat right? It's a simple one, but the design that we're going to do here is going to lead into the other hat. That's square, although this one is not going to be square. So I'm going to make something resembling a sailboat. I'm going to try to even those out. My triangular folds right here, I'm going to try to make them as even as possible. They're not here, but that's okay. Now, I'm going to take and I'm going to fold the bottom sides of this paper like so. I'm going to fold it again because I'm making a band, I guess you will, a hat band. Now, I'm going to flip this over like so. I'm going to fold up the back side the same way. Now, this is a very simple hat, believe it or not. See, you can do this. You can put it on, and of course it's very large. But this is a simple hat. Very, very simple. If you want to start out by making something like this, do it. It's also a sailboat. So that's kind of cool. Now let's go work on our second type of hat. And this is the one, the pressman hat, the square hat we were making. We're going to start exactly the same way. We're going to fold and make the beginnings of our sailboat. I do not know why I like to call this a sailboat, but I do. So we're going to make the beginnings of that. And here we're going to do the same thing we did on the other one on this side. We're going to fold that right there. We're going to fold up like this. And remember, when you're making this, do your best to crease everything because you want to have a nice big crease on it because you don't want it coming apart because this is very thin paper and it might bounce back on you. So now remember how on the other one we folded this up like that? We're not going to do that yet. We're going to fold again in half like this, making some overlap. See, we've got the crease, the seam there, and we're overlapping that. Yet again, we're making a decent crease here. So we're condensing our sailboat, if you will. And I'm going to condense that right there again. And we're still making that hat band. Now this is the tricky part, one of the tricky parts. But I'm going to try to tuck some of this under here because that'll make a stronger band when we finish our hat. Not all of it's going to tuck under, but I'm going to try to. I'm going to make sure to crease this really well. I'm still, as I'm doing this whole thing, I'm creasing it because that's very important. Now, we're going to make a square. We're going to take the top part here, we're going to fold it down, and we're going to crease it, we're going to tuck it under the band. Now this is the part where things kind of fall apart if you're not careful. Now remember, when you're making these kind of hats, or when you're doing any kind of craft, it's okay not to get it right the first time, or a second time, or a third time. Keep practicing and have fun with it. Now, this next part, I'm going to open this up and we'll see how well it works. And I probably messed it up. See, I did. I messed it up. But that's okay. I'll adjust accordingly. That's there. That's there. See, I've got to go back and fix my mistakes. And that's what you do. So take this back, take this up, tuck it under as best you can. And you may have to do this a couple of times to make sure you've got this properly set. Take this, tuck it under, tuck it under. I'm going to try to tuck there a little bit too if I can. So I want it tight as good as I can get it. Let's see. See, I told you about problems and making mistakes. This is not going to be as pretty as some of my other hats, but I think I can make it work. And as an apprentice, when you're making these wonderful newspaper hats, they're not always going to look pretty. But we're trying to make this as square shaped as possible. And you're going to have to fight with it to get it there. And through the magic of filmmaking, I'm going to bring this one out. This is what it should look like at the end when you tuck everything under. It's really nice, it's really cool, and it works very well. I also have this one, and I just made these two before we started. I think I'm going to try one more because it's fun. Now, while I'm making this other hat, let's talk about something really cool we got going on. If you have teacher friends who are looking for things to do with their students, field trip type things, well, we have something going on November 3rd, 4th, and 5th that we call School Fair. Now this year, unfortunately, we're not going to be in person, but we are doing 2 sessions, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and we're doing them via Zoom. Now our theme this year is called Company's Coming, right? So company's going to show up. How do you behave when they get here? So we've got a couple of things happening. We have crafts. Because if you're a youngin' and you're going to visit somebody, you're going to play with some toys. So we've got some toys happening there. And of course, as you can see, I am not getting this the way that I was planning to, but that's okay. Remember, work on these crafts until you get it right. I used to do this for school kids all the time, but not with a camera in front of me. So, Company's Coming. That's our school fair program. And we'll have exclusive videos available for that as well. We're doing another section of our manners with Miss Tricia, which was a series that everybody seems to like and enjoy. So we're going to have that company. How are you dealing with company? What are the manners for dealing with company? So we're going to see some of that. We also have a tour of our brand new exhibit called Conspicuous Consumption. Folks will buy things to show off when company comes around, right? So you've got a new toy you want to show off, you've got a new television, you've got a new boat, you've got a new... Well, folks in Arkansas would do the same thing in the 1800s, and they could buy a lot of fun stuff. See, this is not as pretty as the other one, but it does work. And you will get a chance to tour that exhibit with our wonderful curator, Victoria Chandler. She shows off that exhibit. And we have one more video. And that's going to be a video showing off our printing press. And we're going to look at a printer who's actually printing still today with methods that they would have used in the 1820s and 1840s. And I cannot forget our wonderful blacksmiths who's going to be across the way doing their thing and showing you how the forge would work and how you can make things out of iron and steel and make them work and use them every day. And you might even have something you have to make for company. So, from Historic Arkansas Museum, this is Leon Tidwell, who does know how to make a newspaper hat, but can't always get it right on film. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, and see you next time.